I'm starting to record now.
Yeah, don't forget to push the record button this morning.
I got that done now. Paulette, you're in your car?
Yes, I'm looking for a place to pull over.
Okay.
Yeah.
Be safe.
Yes, definitely. I'm had to take my sister to the doctor this morning.
Oh boy.
Oh my.
Don't want to lose it.
I need to tell you that I'm in a different place this morning. I'm in the reading sitting area of my bedroom, which has been temporarily transformed into an office in the Zoom studio. I fractured my heel somehow, a stress fracture, and now have to wear a boot that makes it hard to going up downstairs. So I'm here. Very nice,
Yes.
lovely exposed brick wall behind me here. It's lovely. So Tyree, how are things with you?
I got a lot going on, honestly, right now. In the midst of about to find a new place to move to.
Uh-oh.
My landlords are kind of doing me bad.
Oh.
I think I don't need to like deal with it for too much longer because they're getting over on me pretty good. And I don't think
Oh my.
in the midst of looking for a new spot mostly. But I'm about to get a new puppy though, so hopefully that could bring me a little joy.
Oh,
That dog
that's
therapy.
sweet.
Very good.
Dog therapy at its
Yes,
best.
yes.
Do you not have a dog now?
I do. I gotta get him a lady, so that's why I was getting a new puppy for my dog.
Yeah, okay.
Gotta get him a little lady.
I thought we'd seen a dog one time before, maybe. So yeah,
He's right here, all over me, curled up right here on my legs.
that's nice. That's nice. My dog died about 6 or 7 years ago in cancer, and we haven't gotten another one. But we're beginning to think maybe it's time for a dog.
What kind of dog was it?
Yeah.
He was a rescue, so we're not for sure. He probably was some kind of a terrier mix, maybe terrier poodle mix or something.
Okay.
But he was a dandy. And
I had a pit for 13 years.
yeah, what did
a
you
blue
have?
pit, and
Pit?
a blue pit
Yeah.
bull. I got him when he was 3 months and had him for 13 years. He's a good dog, but I had to put him down, of course, as well. A couple years ago.
Yeah.
So we're dog lovers.
Yeah. And pets will keep you in mind of mortality. They don't outlive us, so we have to deal with that. And you love, and you lose, and then you love again. That's the way life's built.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
Which I always say is better than not loving at all.
I believe it. I believe that for sure. Yes.
Well, I really grew the time we have on Wednesdays for class and miss all the other students, but I'm so glad to spend time with the three of you. Hope somebody else joins us shortly. I'm going to get started. We're in the week where we're talking the next to last week of actual content for the class. We're starting to talk about Hinduism. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at my 15-minute lecture from Monday. Did you ever get through? No, that was Antoine. Anyway, somebody had trouble getting it to work. And that was a kind of a fun way of getting into it. Today, I want to tell a story that connects with a way of getting into Hinduism. Back in January of 2019, and there was a story in the paper about a Hindu temple here in Louisville that was vandalized. Somebody broke in and spray painted all over there.
That was like in Linden, wasn't it? Didn't it happen in Linden?
This one was in Buchel.
Buchel, okay.
And it was the Swaminarayan temple. Let me see if I can show you a picture of that place to start with. This is the way it looks now after they restored it. Back the fall before that, several mosques in town had been vandalized, and people were spray painting Christian symbols over their own symbols, and it was clearly a white Christian reaction to foreigners and non-Christians. And when the news about the Swaminarayan temple, I wrote the name up here, Swaminarayan, came out, a bunch of churches and mosques banded together and started inviting their people to come on a Saturday and help clean up the temple. Deborah and I went. It was pretty neat. The building was built in the 1950s as a Presbyterian church, and my wife and I are very familiar with it because she had been she'd been pastor of that church when it was a Presbyterian church many years ago. That building was eventually sold, and this Hindu group took it over. Since then, they started off. The Hindus there's more and more Indian immigrants in Louisville, and there's several places now that there are temples. This one is called Swaminarayan because they are a denomination of Hindus that follow a particular guru from the 1800s who produced a particular reform. They call this Swami their guru, and they believe he was an avatar of the main god Brahman, and so they worship him and Brahman through him. It was a pretty neat day. The place was packed with people, and they did a nice conversation about what is Hinduism and what their particular branch of it was. Very welcoming, very warm and friendly people. Lots of political luminaries. The mayor and the governor were there, and as well as others. Then they invited people to do a worship experience with them, and so we got to experience Hindu worship. And one of the rituals was to take a bowl, probably originally was fire with candles in it, and approach the altar and recite a particular mantra with that bowl, and then pass it to others and so forth. It was one of the interesting pieces of that day was that Governor Matt Bevin was there, and along with Governor Mashir, now Governor Mashir, who was just running for the office then. But Bevin is a very conservative evangelical Christian, and I was really surprised that he actually agreed to take part in this ritual and would be seen on video offering a prayer to the Hindu god right out there, and he did it to his credit.
Did he seem like he actually enjoyed it, or was real about it, or did it just seem like he was just doing it to do it?
Yeah, I couldn't tell. He's a good politician. He just did it. But just the fact that he did it was pretty amazing to me. Let's see, I've got a picture of the this is one of their pictures that was defaced. The person had spray painted black over the eyes of the picture of their Swami. Very, very hurtful to them, of course, and that was the intention. They felt really welcomed and affirmed by the Louisville folks who showed up to help, and people brought paint clothes and
Did the vandalism happen a couple of days after the welcoming?
No, the vandalism happened before all of this.
Okay.
It was the story came out about the vandalism, and then churches and mosques after a lot of people had gone to help the mosque who had been vandalized that fall, people said, okay, let's get together and help this temple as well. And so Muslims and Christians all showed up. A lot of people showed up to help this deal on a Saturday after the vandalism was discovered and publicized. And they were very easy to explain, not defensive about their religion. It was a pretty neat experience, and it was the only time I've experienced any Hindu actually conversations with Hindus or worship. So that was pretty neat. So Hinduism, a very different, very seemingly bizarre and vivid experience of original religion. Where did Hinduism originate?
Was it India?
Correct.
India.
Yeah. What do we know about India as a country?
They got took over by the British.
Yes, they were they were a British colony for a long, long time.
Like they speak English, even though I mean they speak a lot of other languages, but English is like one of the top 3 languages there, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
Might
for all those years they were in a colony. They all learned, many people learned how to speak English as the official language. Yeah. Um, uh, uh, Trevor Noah has one of his comedy specials has a bit where he um, portrays a British soldier marching into India and declaring that India is now the property of the Queen of England. And an Indian guy is standing there on, below him and on the ground saying, "Who's the Queen and what? What? How can you say that?" It makes fun of that colonial experience. So yeah, they were they were victimized by the colonization of England, which went in to extract their natural resources, one of which was cotton.
Yeah.
You know how they overthrew the British rule?
Didn't they just recently overthrew
No.
British rule? Wasn't it probably like Gandhi?
Yeah, it was in the 20th century.
Yeah.
What did you say, Paulette?
Oh, I was saying that I didn't know. I
Oh,
didn't know how they overthrew.
yeah, it was so Gandhi became the religious leader. Hey, Kia,
Hey, y'all.
right in the middle of talking about Hinduism and India. And I'm going to mute you since there's a lot of noise in your background. Yeah. That's okay. That's just what is. What else do we know about India? What's that country like?
Heavy populated.
Densely populated, lots, there's gazillions of people. What else?
Mm.
Very high poverty rate. There's
Yeah.
just, people are living on the margins all over that country, and in the cities, it's very acute. People who have visited say that you get inundated by beggars, and you almost have to not make eye contact with them in order to just get through the streets. So yeah, so the British left them in pretty bad shape. Exactly right. And the British rule ended with Gandhi's leadership in the 1940s. So some time ago. So when was Hinduism originated? Now we know where, when.
Mm.
Before the Common Era, but I can't think of I don't have my notes in front of me.
Which I mean, yeah, it's like
Before the Common Era.
Yeah, certainly in BCE.
3000 BC, possibly.
Not quite that far back.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was sometimes they say 1800. Well, it's going bad on me.
So we're in
1800
the second millennium.
BCE. I can't write with this very well.
1800 BC.
1800, 18.
1800.
Yeah, which is, if that connects with about the same time as Moses and the Exodus in Israel and Jewish history, before the rise of the great Greek classical cultures. Of course, the great Egyptian religions and cultures had started long before that. But yeah, that gives you a sense of how old it is. It's so among the religions we're studying, it's as old as Judaism and older than all the rest of them. um, so it's, as you saw from the picture of the Swaminarayan temple, it's very vivid in colors. And the icons or the statues and the pictures of all of their many images of God, they're just, it's like we look at it and say, wow, that's really overdone. It's quite amazing. So look at you, as you saw in pictures in the book. The temples are very elaborate. The images are fantastically, and there are millions of gods, which they call our avatars of the god. Okay, who's the main god? What's the name of the main god?
Is the Hindi? The Hindi and like the Hindi.
The Hindu god, yeah.
Is it Brahmin?
Yeah.
Yeah, Brahmin. Isn't that how their caste system goes as well? It's like the Brahmin is at the
Yeah.
top, and it's like the other social classes.
Yeah, the Brahmin class is the top class, right? Which
Um,
kind of fits with the name of their god.
Yeah.
So ideas of God, that's what we talk about in this class. What ideas of God do they hold on to? What caught your attention as you looked at that? And how does it compare with other religions?
Well, like they believe like God is like different forms.
Yeah.
It's not like he comes in everything, not just one particular way.
Yeah. So are they polytheistic or monotheistic?
I
I
mean,
think aren't they like monotheistic, but they believe like in a lot of gods or something like that?
Yeah, it's really kind of confusing. They really believe that they are they say they are monotheistic. Brahman is their god, the one God, the creator of everything, the ruler of the universe. And then they've got all these other gods, well, they didn't show, that call avatars of God, or expressions, as you said, Kia, expressions of God or depictions of gods or way of experiencing God. And there are millions of these, and they're pictures. The main one is the elephant picture, the human with the elephant head, all of them with mythologies that go with what they are. Shiva and I don't remember the names of them, but they're all, um, and so different people latch on to different ones of the gods and take them home and have altars to them, and they feel like that's worshiping the main god through this other avatar of the god.
Yeah, this is like Hindus believe in a universal soul or God. Like they worship gods or goddesses for like their own personal right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they worship in the temples and they also worship at home. And it's for those who are religious, it is a very important thing. So that's my writing is getting worse here because this is, I got to get a new writer. But what do they say about human life? How do you get meaning for human life, and what's their view of human life and death? Here comes Ricky.
Aren't they? They're like big believers in karma.
Yeah, right. What is karma? Hey, Ricky.
Result of your action, like
Yeah, the destiny, particular destiny.
based on your action.
Right. Yeah. It's called the law of cause and effect.
Mm-hmm.
You will reap what you sow in Christian doctrine. Yeah.
Right.
So why is it how does that tie in with life after death?
Whether you go to, if you've been lived like a good meaningful life, you go to heaven, or if you go into hell or not, like the difference between those.
Yeah, they don't really call it heaven and hell, and they have intermediate steps. How do they, there's a fancy word for that.
Moksha.
Yeah, that's a piece of it. What would we call their belief about life after death? I'm looking for reincarnation.
Oh, samsara. So
what is reincarnation?
is it samsara?
I don't remember the exact name for it, but what is it? How would you describe it?
Incarnation.
Like repeated births and deaths, like just
Yeah.
getting reborn.
Yeah. So they believe that every human being has a soul, which they call the Atman, Atman, and it is eternal. And when you're born, your Atman comes into your body, and then when you die, the Atman goes out of your body and then is rebodied again, which is what incarnation means, rebodied in something else or somebody else. And if you're bad, what happens?
You don't get rebodied.
You get rebodied. Yeah, I got you. Okay, here's the deal. If you don't live a decent life and take care of other people and follow the dictates of your religion, you are likely to reap the effects of that by being born in something other than human. So you could be a cow, or you could be a dog, or you could be an insect. And so they do have a very high view of just animal life in general, because that might be your mother. See? It might be somebody you really love who didn't do so hot. So then each incarnation, a person works to improve their relationship with Brahman, their relationship with each other in the world, and try to come back. And then they can be reincarnated maybe in a lower caste and then a higher caste, and eventually be able to get release and the ultimate goal is complete union with God, with Brahman. If you've really done your stuff, you can be united with Brahman, and that, as the book calls it, as a river flows into the ocean. That's where we're all headed. So it's not actually heaven. It's just a reunited with everything good in the universe, in effect. So that's the idea of reincarnation, the notion of a soul and karma, very big stuff. I think it's really interesting that there's a whole bunch of these ideas that have flowed into common language in our culture today. Karma is talked about a lot. Yoga is talked about a lot. We have avatars in what was a digital media, and then they're talked about as a representation of. You can even have your own avatar in an image. That's all that, and yoga, and the names of some of these some of their leaders. So we're doing a review of all the basic concepts that I want you to kind of have in your mind about Hinduism, so that when you encounter Hindus, and there are lots of them in Louisville now, you can have a beginning sense of what you need to ask and how you can reach out to them and touch their lives. What are the scriptures of Hinduism? The book is not real clear about what they're all called. Some of them written as early as 1800 years ago, 1800 years before Christ. So that would be 4,000 years from now. Well, the ones I want you to remember, and I think are most common in people's minds, are the Vedas, Vedas, which were the earliest writings, and these are huge volumes of lots and lots of stories and myths that were basically revealed to the early Hindus. A very famous one is called the, how to spell it? Bhagavad Gita, Gita, Bhagavad, Bhagavad Gita, and the third one to remember are the Upanishads. Which are a bunch of mostly songs and stories and like psalms, that kind of stuff. So that if you're wanting to grow in your good life, you're encouraged to read the scriptures. Sound familiar? Read the Bible if you're a Christian. Same general idea. So that's important to know. What do you know about the caste system in India?
Caste system. If you're at the bottom, you won't move up. It's like very few ways for you to move up.
Right. What is that lowest level of living in India called? There's an English term that we're often used about that.
The Shivas.
You've really done, you're way ahead of me. I can't remember all those names. The English equivalent is called the untouchables.
Oh yeah.
They have taken on themselves to call themselves Dalits, D-A-L-I-T, which is kind of like they are the marginal, oppressed people of India. They are basically not a caste. They are, and untouchable is the word. They're not supposed to be touched. They're not supposed to touch other people who are not of their caste. They do the nastiest and dirtiest work of cleaning sewers and dealing with dead bodies and that kind of stuff. Gandhi really worked hard to try to lift them, and he had another name for them. And it is a movement in India to try to get them out of that completely vulnerable, oppressed state. In some ways, parallel to the struggle for Black rights in America. And there's some ways of doing that comparison. It is a totally unjust way of organizing a society. The Brahmins are at the top. They have all of the privileges. Most of the government people and the ruling class are Brahmins, and then it goes down from there. I think there are 4 levels plus the untouchables. Here's an interesting contemporary connection for that. You heard the name of Kamala Harris, right?
Yeah.
Running for vice president. She is half Indian and half Haitian. So she identifies as Black in this country. But her mother was Indian. And her mother's family are Brahmins. And we're Brahmins in India.
So she came up rich early.
Yeah, she was already an advantaged person. Her family were already advantaged when they came over, got their education, and her parents are professors at Stanford University in California. So there's an expectation of leadership and education and quality of life in her background that makes her very amenable to becoming a leader in this country as well. But it's a piece of that ancient caste system as well. Very interesting. By the way, people say, well, she's not really Black if her father was Haitian. I'm sorry. There were slaves in Haiti who were brought over to tend to the cotton, to the sugar plantations, and then Haiti got their independence. But these are Afro-Haitians, are Black people. Sidebar, connecting Indian Hindu things with American current situation. Any questions so far? Got a couple more things I want us to talk about. So what are here's the thing I always ask about all of these different religions. What is their house of worship called?
Temple, isn't it?
Yep, it is the temple. So what are the names of their spiritual religious leaders?
Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva.
Well, that's the gods. The human, the the ministers of the priests and their leaders. What are they? They have specific names. Every religion has specific names.
Is it Gandhi?
Gandhi was a particular leader. He was himself a guru. But what they have very specific names. They do have priests. They have a person who studies carefully and aligns himself and sometimes becomes kind of a monk is called, and who's a teacher is called a guru. And that's another word that we have into American lingo as well. If somebody is called a guru, they're a good leader, teacher kind of a person. A person who studies and becomes an expert in the practice of yoga is called a yogi. I actually worked with a woman who was a yogi, or she was Hindu. She was not Indian, she's American, but she was Hindu and had studied carefully enough to be a leader. And she was a yogi. And then the other word is two other words. Sadhu is a person usually man, who devotes themselves to study and prayer and wisdom and teaching, and completely accepts poverty as part of the deal. And then the other one is, what did I say? Yeah. Interestingly, is Swami. And we often think of the turbaned person in Swamis. That church, that temple in Buchel is called Swaminarayan, which they talk about their Swami, who was the guru who led their reform, and they follow him. So it's good to know if you're in a mosque, the leader is called an imam. If you're in a Jewish temple, the leader is Jewish synagogue, the leader is called a rabbi. If you're in a Christian church, the leader is called the pastor or the minister, or in a Catholic church, a priest. And then in Hindu, they could be one of these several leaders. Another interesting piece: how do they dispose of dead bodies in India?
They burn them.
Yeah, they're cremation. Usually big outdoor fires. And if possible, yeah.
They have a poor sewage system, don't they? That's why they can't like put things underground.
That's part of it. I think I think that's just because the body is no longer holds the soul. They don't feel like it needs to be protected and preserved by put into the ground. It basically releases the body into the elements, and then they take the bones that are left and put them in the river, which is not great, not great sanitation either. But that's their practice. And they also do a kind of pilgrimage. They like to go to the Ganges River, the big river that flows through the middle of India. And if you can take that pilgrimage and bathe in the Ganges, it's another piece of building up good karma for yourself. All these little things are pieces of the Hindu religion and their ethics and the way they treat each other. Any other questions before we move on to another piece I want to do with this? So I would like to invite you to spend a few minutes trying a yoga experience. You can, if you have a problem with it emotionally or philosophically, you can just handle it however you want to. But here's what first to say, what is awkward? Okay. To stay where I was. The Hindu practice of yoga, which has been translated into a lot of American culture, it has five things that it focuses on. One is breath control. One is posture. One is mindfulness, or steadying the mind. Tuning out distractions. And then learning to concentrate on what's important. And if you are aiming to prepare yourself for bettering your karma experience in this world, doing these kind of exercises, and they're physical exercises as well as just mindfulness and meditation exercises, which is what we're going to do now, and partly breath control. They recognize that there is a connection between how we deal with our bodies and how our mind and spirits are framed and prepared for life itself and for death. One of the side comment, one of the limitations of Christianity that came out of our connection with Platoism is that we began somewhere along the line to distrust the body. And there is, we're supposed to not think about our bodies and not even, be aware of it somewhat in our prayer time. The Hindus recognize we're bodied people. We are incarnated, reincarnated, but incarnated. And our bodies are important for our eternal salvation. So the yoga is intended to enhance our physical as well as our spiritual well-being through all these kind of things.
Now, what was the right after mindful?
Tuning out distractions.
You say take it out of extraction?
Tuning out.
Tuning out.
In other words, kind of to separate yourself from all your distractions and other things that are trying to get your attention in life, and just think about what you need to be thinking about right now. And then concentrating on what's important. We'll see a lot of comparison between this and meditation in Buddhism, and a lot of Christian meditation has picked up and is parallel to all this. So it's not completely separate, but unique to yoga is in Hinduism, and that it's about working your karma to get yourself ready. All right, questions about that?
No.
So if you're willing to give this a try, I want to spend a few minutes, just a few minutes, maybe 5 minutes total, in an experience of a yoga breath control meditation. So here's the first piece of it is posture. Sit up straight in your seat. Get your head balanced over your spine. Put your feet flat on, both feet flat on the floor. This is the posture part of this whole business. Put your hands in your lap. Close your eyes. Let's try that. Sit up straight, head balanced, feet flat on the floor, hands on your lap, eyes closed. You can feel what you're sitting on holding you up. Feel the floor supporting your feet. Be where you are. That's the first piece. Now, focus only on your breathing. And breath, focus on the breath as a way of calming the body and calming the mind. And our breath is the basic element of life. Without breathing, we can't do it, but we can learn to control our breathing to keep ourselves from panicking, to keep ourselves focused. So here's the way sometimes they suggest it. Breathe in your nose for a count of 7. Hold your breath for a count of 3, and I'll count for you. And then exhale through your mouth for a count of 7. And we'll do that for several minutes. The third piece of this is as you're trying to concentrate your mind and think about only your breathing. When you notice, and we all do this, when your mind is wandering around from thinking about your breath, you simply notice, oh, I'm thinking about this other thing. And you let the thought flow right on through your mind. Don't hang on to it if you can help it. And go back to concentrating on your breathing. And then we'll do that. I'll get my little timer out to be sure that I don't, take advantage of this. Do this for 5 minutes. All right. Questions about this? All right. Here we go. Sitting up straight and start breathing. Breathe in through your nose to the count of 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hold your breath for 3. 1, 2, 3. Out through your mouth. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hold. 1, 2, 3. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Concentrate on your breathing. In. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hold. 1, 2, 3. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hold. 1, 2, 3. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now just go ahead to the next 4 minutes on your own. Count, listen to your breath. See if you can concentrate your mind only on your breathing. Let the stray thoughts just flow right on through. Go ahead. That's 4 minutes. One more minute to go. Okay, take one last breath in and out, and when you're ready, open your eyes, and we'll come back to. And Kia and Ricky, if you can unmute yourselves, you can. So how was that? Tell me what you experienced in a word or two. How was that?
Relaxing.
Okay. How was that for you, Tyree?
Calming, very calming.
Yeah. Okay. Ricky, for you? Except you're muted. Gary,
Some kind of
go ahead.
Kind of meditating. It's kind of, like most people say, calming, relaxing.
And Ricky?
feels like some kind of energy flowing into your spine to the mind.
Nice.
Feels almost like some kind of a natural spirit going through you in a way.
Something not quite natural, huh?
Yeah. I kind of experienced that. It was years ago. My father showed me that years ago. My father studied under a Korean martial art master.
Oh yeah.
It was like very traditional in the Korean martial arts, but very similar to what you're describing.
Yes, most of the Asian, all of these Asian disciplines like martial arts of various kinds from different countries all include physical and breath control and mind concentration. It's very interesting that comes out of Asia, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And there is a connection then to the spirit in some unaccountable way, Ricky, is what you're talking about. It's not only calming, but there's a connection to something else. If we can quiet our minds long enough, we might get in touch with however you described your spirituality, in touch with God.
I remember my father told me what his master told me, that sometimes you can actually control your heartbeat.
Mm-hmm. Yes. In fact, that's been proved in studies that very strong meditators and martial arts people can actually lower their heart rate, and as well as lower the amount of breath they need to take in and so forth. Yep.
I haven't been practicing that for years, and at the same time I didn't understand it, but then you kind of refined it.
What do you mean you refined it?
When you broke down the principle of yoga, even though he didn't describe it as yoga, it was this meditation.
Then doesn't matter what you call it, if it's helpful to you and helps your mind and your body, to get through the day. In fact, just a few minutes of relaxation can really make a difference. A few minutes of connecting with something else. It's always very interesting to me in Christian practice. A lot of people say when you pray, you have to talk to God. We think of prayer as talking to God, telling God that we admire God and that we want what we want from God. It's kind of a, you know, a list of things. The other side of Christian prayer also is, well, when do you listen for what God would like you to think about? When do you listen for God's word to you? It's not just in reading the Bible, it is in getting quiet enough to say, oh, I think I have a sense of God nudging me, urging me here or there, or not to go here or there, God leading me. And you have to get quiet enough and quiet down all of the crazy thinking that goes into that. Yeah. One of the images that the Hindus and the Buddhists use for the way the mind works is they call it the monkey mind. It's like a bunch of monkeys just chattering on and on and on and jumping up and down and active and doing everything like crazy. And that will get in the way of our focusing on what we need to do, and focusing on studying, focusing on dealing with our families, focusing on understanding what's going on in the world. All of these things require some concentration, and meditation, prayer, breathing, posture, all can be a help to that. It's something we can learn from the Hindus. We can learn it from the Buddhists as well. We can learn a lot from the Muslims and their rigorous disciplines of prayer as well. Okay, more comments and thoughts about that? How was that? Any more thoughts about how that was? Was it a problem?
Still thinking. It's interesting about the way they break it down on the way the mind works and the body connects to the mind.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the same time, they develop a spiritual, more like a spiritual connection along with it.
Yeah, yeah. All those are, in many people's experience, they're connected. And if you want to be more spiritual, you got to find time to make that happen. This is built in. And all of us find different ways and our own unique ways of doing it. Other thoughts, comments? First
I just
time-
feel like, oh, sorry.
Yeah. Go ahead, please.
I was gonna say, I just feel like, even me personally, like if I was to just take maybe like 5, how long does it say you're supposed to do the yoga thing or like the breathe? Like it's no set time.
No set time. I gave us 5 minutes because that's a easy thing to try out for the first time. If you can extend it longer and longer, it's even better.
I feel like, just personally, like if I was just to take 5 minutes out of my day just to do that and just kind of like set on my mind, because when I tell you I have like a lot going on. It's not, I'm not saying like it's a bad thing or whatever, but it's just a lot. And I just really don't have time to just sit down and just connect with, just life or God, or not really saying I don't have time to connect with God, but just to sit down and maybe like let him hear me. Let me hear him. Mm-hmm. Like, we always, like just thank you, God. Thank you. And please do this, please do that. But like, do we take time to just sit and like hear him, like let him speak to us? like me personally, like I probably don't do that, and I probably should. I appreciate this exercise you did because I feel like I'm gonna just try to, at least just put this in my daily routine.
That's a wonderful outcome of this. I would be encouraged. Let me know how it turns out.
I'll try.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not antithetical to Christian prayer. When I first did this in this class 3 years ago, had a student who was bound and determined, I won't do something that's not Christian. So he spent the time, instead of doing this, he prayed and talked to God. And then he later said, I've learned how to do that and I kind of like it. So yeah. All right. Any other comments on this? Thank you for trying it out. That's great. I'm glad you found some benefit of that. So let me wrap up by talking about next week. We're going to talk about Buddhism. Read in Keen's book, pages 66 to 86. You'll see a lot of similarities in how Buddhism flowed from Hinduism and how it's quite unique. I need to remind you that your term paper, remember that, is due next week, a week from today. A week from yesterday is voting. If you haven't voted yet, and you can, definitely be a part of the change that makes America work. It's a piece of Simmons College to vote, to be a part of the society and make a change, society more like what we think it ought to be. So do that. You'll have your one-page report on Hinduism due by Friday this week. And if you haven't gotten your other weekly reports in, I encourage you to get that going. Don't let yourself fall too far behind. Meditate about it, maybe. And if I'm concerned about other students who don't show up for class, and some of them aren't up to date on their class, on their stuff, and they don't answer my emails. If you happen to know some of the students, you can see that on the list of people I sent the emails to. And just check and see how they're doing, and if they need some encouragement I don't want anybody to fail this course just because they didn't do the assignments. So next week, Buddhism, I'll give you a video on it on Monday, and then Wednesday we'll meet and I'll give you a little experience of Buddhist meditation next Wednesday. You can compare and contrast.
Oh, good.
Thank you very much for being here today. Love you all. Have a good week.
Thank you. You
All
too.
right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.